Welcome to a bonus episode of the Andy Staples Show presented by Sling and Ari Wasserman. I only have one question for you. Do you believe in Sean Clifford now?
15 minutes ago, I thought this 10 minutes was going to go very differently. So he just cemented his spot as the starter without any questions moving forward for the rest of the year.
Wow.
Stones.
What a drive. 10 plays, 80 yards back against the wall. It was incredible. That was outstanding. And he had thrown a crippling pick six that, for all intents and purposes, we thought had lost them the game. He had taken a vicious shot to his left knee in the first half, stayed in the game, had his incredible 2-yard QB sneak score. Then halftime comes. They come out for the third quarter. He goes back in the locker room. Drew Allar comes out. And I thought, oh, man, this is Ari's, he's been saying, put the kid in, play the kid, play the kid, play the kid. You didn't want the kid in that last drive. You wanted Sean Clifford in that last drive.
No, I would have paid money out of my checking account to see the kid in that last drive. It worked out. Drew Allar throws a pretty ball. If people at Penn State, the coaching staff have decided that he's not ready yet, then he's not ready yet. And I'm happy for Sean Clifford to come in there and kind of redeem himself. Whenever people make those critical mistakes that make you feel like they've cost, it's like my temperament as a human to root for them after that because I feel bad for them.
Right.
But he stepped up in a big moment and won them a game against what seemed to be a very good Purdue team. So, there's no way that Franklin was going to bench him in that moment. He kind of would have been crazy. I would admit that it'd be crazy to put Allar in at the end there.
Allar didn't look bad in the one drive he got, by the way.
No, he had a really pretty ball, and one was dropped. But I don't know. I think it'd be kind of crazy to say that Allar would have won the game there. I mean,
yeah.
By
the way, how about the mocking cheer from Purdue fans when Purdue finally ran the ball as they were trying to run out the clock by throwing it every down?
Well, I mean, guys were open. I mean, they kept moving.
Yes, that's true.
It's not like they, I guess you kind of just, go with what got you there. And that was those big 3rd and 6 conversions they kept getting over and over again with guys springing wide open. But, if Penn State would have lost that game, I think my temperament about like how they should handle the rest of their season would be much different, So I'm happy that they got the win for their program and their fans. You don't want to come out after extending your coach for a decade for $100 million and losing to Purdue. But Clifford deserves all the credit in the world for doing what he just did. That was an incredible drive.
Let's talk about what Justin Yao just put in our live stream. At the end of the season, both these teams might be 500. So I did this was a more exciting version of the season opener for Penn State last year where they beat Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, is it that different?
It's always hard in, making these picks and watching these games in week one without any context is always difficult. It's like if Purdue is 3-5, it's like you get
Ari, it's our job to overreact. The game ended 5 minutes
You don't think I've been overreacting?
That's all we're doing.
You don't think I've been overreacting? I've been saying play the kid, turn the page for the past 20 minutes on Twitter. I'm the king of overreacting. But I think it's a good thing I think it's a good win. Like you can sit back and say, well, both of these teams stink or they'll both be 500, and that might be so. But I think that it's a disservice to analyze the game through the lens of that wasn't a good win. Going on the road,
it was a great win.
Ross-Ade Stadium was loud, and I've been in that stadium when things are rocking and things are going well. It's a really hard place to win.
You were there when they beat Ohio State in 2018,
and then just beat them, kick the crap out of them, and it was just like when things are rolling there's a certain feel to that place that it kind of had going tonight. So I think it was a good gutsy win and a good confidence builder for the quarterback that they clearly were going to go with, and. What this means for 5 weeks from now, who knows? But I think that I'm not going to sit here and say that wasn't a good win for Penn State tonight.
Well, it is because it's a road win in the Big Ten, week 1. Like, mark that off the list. Which, by the way, they did that last year. Yep. But this felt like a pretty competent team. And I agree that Purdue could be pretty good. Aiden O'Connell, you were talking about Drew Allar throwing a pretty ball.
No, he's great.
Aiden O'Connell throws a pretty ball.
He's a grown man, so
God,
I hope
good.
he does. But I look at Penn State's schedule here. They got Ohio next week out of the MAC, and then they're going to Auburn. They're going to Auburn 2 weeks from now. So there's a pretty good chance that they'll be 5-0 going into the Michigan game in mid-October, which is exactly what Big Ten football is all about. So, the thing that's interesting is that I wonder if there will be a discourse amongst Penn State fans about what they should do with the quarterback, because the quarterback won the game, but there was a lot of ass play there, for 2 quarters there, where it was just like, he can't make a pass. He throws a pick six at the worst time.
Well, I'm also very curious to see what we find out about. I mean, I don't know that they'll tell us anything, but what happens with his knee? That looked really bad.
It did, yeah.
And so we don't know, and we'll hear from James Franklin later, and we'll find out if they brought him in for precaution or just to check him out. But that's one of those things, because we've seen people get hurt, play through the pain, and then you find out later that they've done something that requires more time.
Yeah, well, the way that he played on that last drive, it looked like he was feeling okay, and he has some escapability to him. That's the thing about Clifford that people don't realize too. He's always been a pretty good mover, and I thought he did a good job of escaping pressure. The thing that I am a little bit disappointed of, if I'm a Penn State fan, frankly speaking, what are we in year whatever we are in Franklin? It's been almost a decade, right?
2014 is his first year.
Okay, so 8 years. For them to have an offensive line and a defensive line that can't control the line of scrimmage against Purdue, and not taking anything away from Purdue, but Penn State should be winning the line of scrimmage in these games, and that offensive line kind of got its butt kicked for a large portion of that game. That's not an encouraging thing. And then just you would think they'd be more progressed as a program by this time. So
neither of these teams was particularly great at running the ball. Neither one really established anything up front. So, yeah, and it's one of those you talked about with Purdue before this game, when you lose the 2 best players on your team who had legitimate arguments whether they actually were or not, but maybe the best offensive and defensive player in the Big Ten, or could have argued for that with George Karlaftis and David Bell last year. You got George Karlaftis on this team tonight. Like,
Purdue wins without question. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. There's no question. And that's the difference too. It's just like sometimes you feel like you have a veteran team and a lot of guys coming back, but if you have that one special player, ask Michigan. I mean, last year they had Aiden Hutchinson and he won games for them. So there's and add Dave Bell into the equation too. I mean, that's a secondary that people were getting open on, and that guy was an incredible receiver.
Charlie Jones making that move from Iowa looked pretty prescient. Now, the question will be, will Iowa or Purdue win more games this year? Iowa may win more games. Charlie Jones probably in a better spot to catch more balls. 12 catches for 153 yards and a touchdown. And he was great.
Yeah. We just have this comment from Chris R. Purdue could look back at the end of the year and regret this one. It's like, if you look at the schedule, Indiana State next week at Syracuse,
5-0, 6-0, yeah.
Then FAU at Minnesota, at Maryland, Nebraska. I mean, they could have made it to almost the end of October undefeated.
Yeah, at Minnesota is going to be tough no matter what.
Sure.
But yeah, there was a possibility that they could be 5-0, 6-0 with that schedule. And yeah, they missed an opportunity. It was a goal line. They had it. They had this game in hand. They got to figure out a way to salt away, run the clock out, keep getting first downs. And look, it's easy to say, just run the ball. If you're not great at running the ball and you have that quarterback, you can still find a way to run the clock.
I didn't really think that the way that they went about it was terrible. They were doing what was working for them. And I always think that's a good plan if you're a coach.
Exactly. When you have that quarterback and you don't necessarily have a blue chip offensive line, that's fine what they were doing.
But they were probably 1 inch away from winning the game on that catch that they ruled incomplete.
Right.
If that ball was 1 inch higher, they would have caught that.
That game and the backyard brawl
Both had a
both
weird
turned
catch.
on catch. Well, I mean, the backyard brawl, like that would have allowed West Virginia to maybe force overtime, but Purdue probably wins if that's
both had pick sixes too.
Yes. Yep. So I am over the moon at how this season has started. I feel like, and this is, we talked about this before the season started. We don't know much about all these teams because rosters have changed. Transfer portal makes things a lot more interesting, especially now that you can just play right away. And like we saw it tonight with Charlie Jones, you thought, okay, Purdue loses David Bell. How are they going to continue to give Aiden O'Connell targets? And well, they found targets. So that's the part that I think is going to be interesting as we go forward. Now, there were other interesting games, and we will get to those games on the Andy Staples Show on the Friday edition, the podcast that drops on Friday morning. You can watch it here on YouTube if you'd like. Just subscribe to this YouTube channel or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We got a lot to talk about, Ari. We got the backyard brawl. We have Penn State, Purdue, obviously. We have Florida International walking it off against Wagner, needing to walk it off against Wagner. Oklahoma State was cruising toward covering the spread, and then Central Michigan decided, no.
You think it's a bad break if you have Oklahoma State minus 20 and they're winning 51-15 and then don't cover?
It's a problem. It's a problem. So we got to talk about all that. If you want to hear it, watch it. Andy Staples Show, Friday morning. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for listening. This is going to be one hell of a college football season.